Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." It was my first year canvassing at Forest Lake Academy. I was maybe 14 years old and I was a freshman. And I remember this day specifically because I had a fear of dogs. Now, even before canvassing, growing up as a child in my neighborhood, every time there was a dog, I would run or I would get scared or I'd hide behind my older brother's back. But this time was different because I was by myself. It was the first time I was canvassing and I didn't really know how to handle the situation. So I went up to the door and I knocked on the door and I started my canvass. And before I knew it, this dog came running at me. And of course, I got a little scared. So I threw my bag and I took off, started running. And I didn't look back because I was afraid. And I knew that I could not conquer my fear. So fast forward a couple weeks, I was still canvassing, I was getting more experience, but I had yet to overcome my fear of dogs. So this one day, Uncle Les came with me and he canvassed with me. And we went up to this one house and I knocked on the door and the person answered the door and I started to canvass them. Next thing I know, this huge dog, probably the size of me at the time, just came barking and running at me. And of course, I got scared. I didn't know what to do. So I ran. I left Uncle Les there, just waiting, talking to the person. And next thing he knew, he turned his head and I was gone, down the street, running away. Why? Because I was afraid of dogs. Now, what does this story have to do with anything? Well, it reminds me of a verse, and this verse is taken from 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. This verse says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind." You see, this verse is very important to me because in times of fear, in times when you're afraid and you don't have courage to withstand your trial, God has promised you that He has not given you a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. When I was canvassing with Uncle Les, he reassured me that I had nothing to be afraid of. He stood by me. He encouraged me to overcome my fear so that I can continue the mission and spread God's word and His gospel. In the first story, it was my running that intimidated the dog to start chasing me. Sometimes this is why people tell you, when you're afraid of a dog, just stand still. Sometimes God is trying to protect you from the very thing that you're running from. He just wants you to be still and have faith that He'll protect you. When I ran, I was afraid. But when I stood still, I had courage and believed that God would keep me safe. I had to learn to trust God and to believe that He would protect me while doing His work and spreading His gospel. You see, God's love for you is greater than anything in the world that we can ever fear or be afraid of. I'll leave you with this. 1 John 4 verse 18 says, "There is no fear in love. Perfect love drives out